What does it mean for the church that the Reformation was led largely by young people?
I think it's very significant because first we have to think about how old was Jesus when he did his ministry?
Yeah, 30,
33, right?
As I think about the context of that we do our ministry in, we're working with those young adults in this time and place, and they seem to always be the ones that are kind of pushing the edge of where the church needs to go.
That age group is okay with questioning assumptions that we've all held for a very long time. And so I think it really allows us to be accountable. It allows us to all go, why do we do it that way?
Yeah.
And what does it mean when we do things like that? Which is very helpful for us to move in a growing process.
They have this huge desire to belong to something that matters. So they are the reformers now as they were back then.
And there's this understanding when you do have an ability to ask those kind of questions, you move from a fixed mindset to one that is a growth mindset. And I think that that is what Jesus calls us to be about, is growing and changing and answering that call for God. So are we willing to step into those new places that young adults and youth are calling us into for new visions and new opportunities, resting on the beautiful foundation, the rich foundation that we have in this church? And my prayer is that we will be able to do that.
Just constantly shake things up and be reformers.
Absolutely, because God makes things new every day.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What are some gifts we live out through our Lutheran heritage?
Quick, easy answer always is grace, but that's boring. What I want to hope, and that I think we do live out, is being open to not only our gifts, but the gifts that others bring to the table. And that's something that we have now been spending 500 years exploring together. I serve in an Episcopal congregation, and I'm becoming more Lutheran the longer I hang out with Episcopalians, because I get to try to explain to them, or at least in my own head even, and I see lived out where there are the small differences, but they're so small sometimes.
Yeah.
They're really not that big. So when we open that up, and we engage with other people, we are richer for it too.
It makes us all better.
Right, and hopefully sharing that gift of openness then makes that available for others as well.
What is one main thing your church is known for within the community? What makes your congregation unique?
I would say now we're probably most well known for selling fair trade coffee. So we are the place to go to get your fair trade. Congo coffee has become super huge.
Back in 2013, Atonement experienced some historic floods as part of the Boulder flooding, 19 inches of rain, and we had flooding in our congregation. And we were just inundated with support and funds from places, quilts and books, baby blankets, just amazing gifts. And we've been able to return that favor, and it has drawn us as a congregation to ask the question, what is it that we exist for, and how can we pay these types of things forward? We were approached a year and a half ago, or a little bit less, by an organization called Boulder Outreach for Homeless Overflow. And there's a great homeless shelter in Boulder that doesn't have nearly enough room for all of the people, so 20 faith communities have been drawn together by BOHO, as we call it, to host people every night of the week for various programs. Started changing the DNA of our culture at Atonement. You ask someone, well, what is it about Atonement that you like? What do you want to do more of? They say things like BOHO.
What is it about our Lutheran identity that pushes us to engage with other Christians?
Well, central to our Lutheran identity, obviously, is the idea that we're saved by grace through faith, and the centrality of God's free gift of mercy and grace and love and forgiveness for all of creation. And so confident in that truth and in that reality, the truth that there's nothing that I have to do in order to be able to earn, God's favor and yada yada yada. I have the confidence to be able to be fully engaged with my neighbor, whether my neighbor is Presbyterian or Episcopalian or any of the other folks who are in full communion with the ELCA, or if my neighbor is the pastor from the Baptist church across the way from Holy Love, or the Pentecostal church down the street, or if my neighbor is Muslim or Buddhist or anything else. I have the confidence in my own, to stand in my own tradition, trusting in God's grace, and then to be able to experience the reality of the divine that my neighbor recognizes, and thereby increase my own increase my own experience of God through the experience that's central to my neighbor's faith.
How could we be a healing influence as a both and church in an either or world?
That's an incredible question because, yes, we do tend to think in a dichotomous way. It's either my way or your way, and neither seem to be bringing us together. I think what we forget is the fact that God is infinite. A lot of the time when I say, well, God loves me, but there's not enough love for you, that's what we're really saying. To really understand God is to let God act through us. Because I am not capable of knowing and understanding God's infinite creation. So I have to let God be and work through me. Yes, I speak and understand God through Jesus Christ, and it speaks powerfully to me. But there are other people who may think other ways, and I have to recognize the fact that God has many voices. God speaks in so many different languages in so many different ways to so many different people. I have to be open to that. I don't necessarily have to agree with it because it's not necessarily how I see God, but I have to understand that God is speaking through the person I'm speaking with now. That together we have to find common ground and find what brings us together. For Christians, most of the time, it's Jesus. We come together under the umbrella that Jesus saved us, and we are forgiven. And that should be where we start, not where we end.
Thank you.
Thank you, Yuki.